Right and left. Cool. Awesome. Well, hi, everybody. My name is Josh Franzen. I'm head of sales and business development for Springboard. Before I jump into the presentation, I'd love to just get to know the audience a little better. So if you're a current LBE operator or soon-to-be prospective LBE operator, would you mind raising your hand briefly? Thanks. And then how about if you're a studio or a content creator? Awesome. And then finally, if you provide turnkey solutions or services to FECs and locations. Sweet. Really helpful. So in this presentation, I'm going to touch on the three, main challenges that Springboard is seeing in LBVRE today, and then solutions to those challenges. Those three core challenges being marketing and promotion, 2 off-peak hours, and 3 repeat customers. Now, before that, who is Springboard? I think most of you in the room might already know, so not going to spend too much time on it. But the long story short is we launched a VR arcade back in October of 2016, so one of the first in the United States. To our knowledge, the first in the Midwest. And then shortly after created the Springboard platform to really solve the pain points that we experienced ourselves from operating a venue. So that includes station management, content licensing, et cetera. And then shortly thereafter, we pivoted to really focus just on building a SaaS company and licensing out the software. And so and that was around April of 2017. And then since then, we've grown to, we've got about 470 plus locations actively using the platform. That's across 40 countries, and that accounts for about 4 million minutes per month. One more thing I do want to touch on too before jumping into those challenges and solutions is a broad market overview. The industry is pretty fragmented with a lot of different players and LBE types, so it's kind of helpful to all be on the same page before addressing that. So we've been tracking LBE growth since 2016, and at the moment we're aware of 2,200 locations that offer some form of VR as an attraction, and these are all locations outside of China, Japan, and South Korea. Now, of those 22 locations, 50% of them are dedicated VR locations. And what I mean by dedicated is all that they offer, or their primary offering, is VR as an attraction. And then 35% of that 2,200 are traditional family entertainment centers and theme parks, or kind of pre-existing locations that have recently, in the last couple of years, added VR as a new attraction. And then the remaining 15% are kind of a mix of different locations that, kind of a hodgepodge, escape rooms that maybe offer VR on the side, or barcades, or internet cafes, or LAN gaming centers. And again, all outside of Asia for the most part. So like I was saying, the industry is pretty fragmented with many different players and different location types. So this is just how Springboard thinks of it. It might be helpful for you all. Hopefully it doesn't confuse anyone, but we think of it as there being 4 primary types. So type 1 would be the VR centers, or also known as the VR arcades. So these locations primarily offer room scale VR booths as their attraction. Some of them might also offer motion treadmills or racing simulators. Some even sell food and drinks. But again, the room scale VR booths are their core attraction. Their business model is they rent out the headsets, so they sell time, not ticketed. There's some notable exceptions to this, like VR World out of New York City. But for the most part, it is time-based. And then a lot of the content that you'll see at these centers can be found on Steam. But one quick note on that, one trend that we're seeing is a lot of these studios are creating kind of modified builds to better fit the LBE settings. So Arizona Sunshine, Beat Saber, Raw Data, Shooty Fruity, Super Hot is coming out soon. So these are all content creators and studios that have created modified arcade builds that aren't available to the public at home. And then the next type are theme parks and family entertainment centers. These could be traditional theme parks and entertainment centers like Dave & Buster's, and then they could also be dedicated, kind of the newer type of FEC and theme parks. So, a good example would be VR Park out of Dubai, Two-Bit Circus in LA, the massive theme park in China, I'm blanking out on its name. But the core feature here is that they offer a multitude of VR attractions, or a multitude of regular attractions too. Theme parks, their business model is they'll typically charge a cover on entry, whereas family entertainment centers charge per attraction, sell tickets per attraction. Third are the high-end free roam locations. We're all well aware of these, so don't need to spend too much time on these. Definitely the higher end of all locations. They take immersion to the next level thanks to their integration with hyper reality, with smell and touch and all of that. So the Nomadic, the Void, Dreamscape, all great examples of these, and these are ticketed locations or attractions as well. And then finally, you have turnkey solutions providers. So these companies sell their package solutions to primarily FECs and theme parks. Some of them might sell to VR centers. And I would say this is where we've seen the most growth recently, and therefore also in FECs in theme parks adding on VR. So Hologate has had a lot of success in this area. VR Studios, Zero Latency, Exit Reality is a newer player on the scene. Virtuix with their Omniverse Arena. So there's dozens upon dozens of these. So you might be thinking, okay, where does Springboard fit in all of this? And we power VR booths, so really any location that offers those room scale VR booths. So that means primarily the VR arcades and VR centers, but then we do work with a couple dozen FECs that offer a VR arcade as an attraction. So now back to the challenges. Hopefully now that we're all on the same page as far as the different location types. So number one is marketing and promotion. The reality is not many people know what VR is. So we conducted a 110 question survey last year, and it was surveyed over 150 of our customers who are arcade operators. And one of the findings is that 95% of their customers were first-time VR users. Now, that number has probably gone down since then, but the point remains that VR is still so new, and most people have yet to try true six-stop virtual reality. So just from interviewing and talking to arcades and reporting on the successful and profitable ones, several solutions that have come to our attention is one, take virtual reality to them. So take it to the public, go to corporate events, go to birthday parties, take VR into the community, and then in turn, you should see the community coming to your location. Second is social media marketing. I think this is probably pretty obvious to all of us in the room, but we've noticed, at least among our customer base, not all of them really leverage this to the full extent that they could be, engaging with their audience and building a brand and targeting them effectively through the different platforms. So definitely highly recommend this. And then finally, mixed reality marketing. And I do want to spend a second on this. So most of you know what mixed reality is, but for those of you that don't, essentially it allows spectators to see the end user within the virtual environment. So instead of just seeing their point of view, kind of like if you're playing a computer game and seeing their screen, it allows you to see them within the virtual environment. So if picture little Johnny going to the local arcade with his family, he puts on the headset and starts playing Arizona Sunshine. It allows his parents and his sister to get more engaged with his experience because they're not just seeing what he's seeing, but they're actually seeing zombies, approaching him and attacking him from all sides. So I truly believe that, I personally believe that mixed reality has the power to really solve this problem of not many people knowing or understanding what VR is. But until recently, it's just been a challenge for LBE operators to effectively implement it into their location just because maybe the tech is complex or it's another platform to learn. And but we are excited to have a solution to this, and really it's because of our most recent partnership with Blueprint Reality. They've got an incredible solution called Mixcast, and through this partnership it'll allow Springboard to bring seamless mixed reality solutions to our customer base. And it's really exciting because the industry as a whole, the ecosystem has been embracing this. We all saw that Sandbox VR raised a 60 million, whatever, Series A. And then Zero Latency too is partnering with Blueprint. So really excited to be able to be on board with mixed reality and offer this to our customer base. The second challenge is off-peak hours. So we all know that utilization is highest, over the weekends and during certain days of or weeknights as well. But what about during school days or working in school hours? So our profitable and successful customers have reported utilizing and leveraging educational VR content. And you probably noticed that I've been using the phrase VR centers and not just VR arcades. And that's really been intentional because we're seeing a lot of our customers kind of rebrand and especially newer customers rebrand to not just be known as an arcade, which makes you think of gaming, but really as an experience center. So a place where someone can come to experience all types of VR. So you can get really creative with this: class field trips, VR labs, after-school programs, and much more. So we're excited to partner with Victory VR and Steve Grubbs and his company with bringing some of his content to the platform and therefore to our customers. IDR is another experience that allows students to actually program within VR and collaborate with each other. So lots of examples there. And then the third challenge, which is repeat customers. How do we secure those repeat customers? So on this, the price point really has to drive repeat business. This point is more focused towards VR arcades and VR centers. I understand that it wouldn't apply to an FEC with a HoloGate or a zero latency. So Bob Cooney, don't be mad at me. But in the early days, we were seeing arcades charging about $1 per minute. And now across the board, we're seeing successful, profitable, and most VR centers and arcades in general charging around 50 cents or sometimes even less per minute. And then the second thing across the board, which is very obvious, is multiplayer. So of the top 20 titles on Springboard, 15 of them offer multiplayer and or a leaderboard. Here's a quote from one of our operators on the importance of multiplayer. But on the point of multiplayer, there still is one huge challenge to it, especially in a VR arcade setting, where we're not dealing with customized content like HoloGate or like zero latency. And so, if you're an arcade operator, you've all experienced the challenge of trying to launch a group of friends into a co-op Arizona Sunshine game or a multiplayer Skyfront game. It's a challenge, and in most cases, you can't let the customer wouldn't be able to figure that out themselves. And so we're excited our solution to this, which we're excited to announce, is a multiplayer SDK. And it's really sorry for the formatting, I created it on Google Slides. But anyway, the phase 1 of this is complete, and that's our content distribution system. And then phase 2 is the multiplayer SDK itself. So with content distribution, what this does is it allows the builds to actually content to actually sit on our servers, which allows us to work much more closely with those content creators and offer functionality to operators that otherwise wouldn't be found on Steam. Another great feature about this is just the process of deploying content across stations. Right now, if you operate a VR center with 10 different bays, you have to go to each and every single PC and download content one at a time. But through this content distribution system, it'll allow operators to remotely deploy content across all devices, across all stations at once. And then, like I was saying, the multiplayer SDK. Man, formatting is really messed up. But provided a content partner has implemented this SDK, we're building out this new UI that'll allow the end user to join and host multiplayer directly from the Springboard launcher, which is what you're looking at right now, this Netflix-style VR launcher. Another great feature on this multiplayer SDK is that it'll allow the end user to host and join multiplayer both locally, so at their arcade, and then also worldwide, so with any other location that's using Springboard. So just some concluding thoughts. One is LBVRE growth is not slowing down. If anything, we've seen it be very consistent. And as I mentioned earlier, we're seeing the fastest growth in the whole family entertainment center theme park category. And as a result of that, with the turnkey solutions providers. Second point is that having a multitude of different LBE types and locations, in our opinion, is really healthy for the ecosystem. One analogy that I heard a while back, and I wish I could remember who so I could give them credit, is every city is going to have a Toyota or a Honda or a Ford dealership, but only maybe the larger capital cities, coastal cities, are going to have the Ferrari and Maserati dealerships. So that's kind of how we see, maybe the relationship with VR centers and arcades to the higher end free roaming locations. But, I think Orlando is a great example of a city that's got probably a couple HoloGates and arcades and Nomadic and all these different types of attractions. So we believe it's really healthy and allows the public to experience VR in a multitude of different levels. And then finally, mixed reality educational content and multiplayer are crucial for LBVRE, as I mentioned earlier. And regardless of whether you're an arcade or an FEC, I think there's creative ways to implement this. But especially with educational content, I think because there's not a lot of educational content for, at least to my knowledge, for like free roaming and for Hologate and all these other more turnkey attractions, I think that arcades and centers do have a unique opportunity to capitalize on this type of content. So my name's Josh, like I was saying, with Springboard VR. I'll be here until about 4 o'clock, so I'd be happy to chat and answer any questions.
Thank you, Josh. Thank you.